Matthew writes in that he is one day away from closing on a home and he's no longer interested in actually moving forward and purchasing the home. Yep. So he's wondering what type of penalties is he going to face if he does not close on his home? Cora.
Oh, Matthew. Well, first, let me say that you are not alone, whether it's the purchaser who has what we call buyer's remorse or if it's a seller. So we'll oftentimes see those situations where there's either a breach or an anticipatory breach situation, and the parties just simply want to back out. So
Mm.
the first thing we want to do is we want to review that contract to see if there's any valid contingencies that you can exercise in order to get out. And that's why it's so instrumental that you work with those real estate professionals so that they can direct you to the correct legal counsel that are knowledgeable about your board forms, those real estate agents who can look through to let you know if those contingencies exist or if they have expired. So absent any valid contingencies, any good contractual provision that would allow you to, then we're talking about a breach situation. Whether it's anticipatory, like you think you want to get out, but you haven't told anybody yet, or you've actually breached and, let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, and says, I am not performing. I am not moving forward. I am not showing up to closing. So then in a breach situation, you might be liable for a number of different damages. So generally speaking, in this situation with a buyer, what actual cost has a seller incurred that they could go against the buyer for? Moving costs and expense. Did they store some of their items? Are they under contract for another home? Both sides of the real estate commission. So even though traditionally speaking, the commissions are going to be paid by the seller, the breaching party may be liable for those commissions in that instance. And then obviously you could have to pay mediation costs, arbitration costs, legal fees, and more. So, people think it's just, oh, well, I'm sorry, I want to back out, or I'm just going to lose my good faith deposit, because certainly if it's a breach, that's one of the first things there. But at least the GALAR contract, if there's a fight over the earnest money deposit, you can actually get up to 3 times the amount of that. So what you may think is a simple $1,000 good faith deposit could very quickly turn into tens of thousands of dollars or more. And I would say almost always when we have this discussion about risk versus reward, the risk of breaching versus the reward of doing so, or the lack of reward when it shows your liability, almost always when we have that conversation, people end up doing the right thing and they end up performing. Now, what I will tell you, Matthew, is that if what I just said scares you a little bit, and you're like, well, I don't have that kind of money. I don't want to be looking over my shoulder. I don't want to be open to that liability. We are in this amazing market where we have an extreme lack of inventory, but that gives you an opportunity where if you buy it, not only would I'm sure you'd feel really good about reselling it, and Bob can take a look at those stats for you, but you might even be able to make more money. I had that. Now, this was about a year and a half ago. We had a buyer, didn't want the home. They resold it and got it under contract in 4 days post closing. So they closed on it so they wouldn't be liable. Got it under contract 4 days later, and they actually made $25,000. It's bananas.
It is bananas. You're absolutely right. No kidding. Just bring some cereal with you.